You're listening to Tales of the Forsaken, a live play Fate Core game by Noble Jester Productions.
Okay, so first session down. How are you feeling?
So I have DM'd just one-on-one sessions before, but I've never just been the player. And there isn't a very high level of stress. It's just me, and if I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
All these terrible rolls that I'm getting, that's just a fail.
Yeah, and thankfully you had Cinder here who was kicking butt.
Yeah.
And taking some of these guys out and drawing their fire. But yeah, it's stressful being the only player. There's nobody else that can jump in and come up with an idea or do anything. It's all you, man.
Yeah. So, story's excellent, and sorry if I die and you don't get to tell it.
Hopefully I won't kill you that quickly. We'll wait till the end.
You'll torture me before that happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, on to session 2. What I will say, if you are listening, you're listening to kind of a special side project that we're working on. Our normal Tales of the Forsaken is set in the world of Brilliant, following Verboten, and this is something a little different. So this is kind of a sci-fi type story that we're telling with me acting as the GM and Jesse as the player. So this is the second episode of that. If you haven't heard the first yet, please go back and listen to that so you know what the heck we're doing. So, a lot less notes for this second session. Let me kind of tell you where you are.
Okay.
So you have been sucked through this gravitational event, which you realize was a portal, and it has transported you somewhere else. And this somewhere else happens to be a place with a lot of water. So you have come through the atmosphere here. You saw the Luminaut on your way down. Very quickly you could tell it was in the water, crashed there. It was getting peppered by these asteroids that were also sucked through this portal. You did not see Cinder. You didn't see these pirates that came through either. And you are plummeting through the atmosphere on this asteroid that you have affixed yourself to. Definitely help with preventing any other asteroids crashing into you. But you have now crashed into the water, which water's still pretty hard when you're coming from that sort of distance.
Yeah. So I assume that I could just assume that we've now moved from the sea between into one of the actual Spire worlds.
Yes.
Because, there's atmosphere, there's water. It's not the open, almost like space, element of the sea between. Okay.
Yep, exactly. And as you're falling, you actually do see this portal from the other side. You can see the sea between beyond, and this thing closes up, and it is now gone.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Just what I wanted to hear.
Yep.
All right, so we crash into the water on our asteroid that we're riding.
Absolutely. You crash into the water here. So once you hit the water, it is jarring. You hear pain from glass hitting the water here. Also, as this happens, asteroid is more dense in the water, so it's going to start to sink if you're staying attached to it. So what are you doing?
Yeah, assuming that I didn't get thrown around because I'm probably, strapped in, Gavin would be immediately trying to, use whatever controls he has to help Glass uncouple them from this asteroid, whether that means retracting the grappling hook or what, and then, trying to see if Glass can power through the water and back up and out of the water.
Okay, so this asteroid, it hits, the water's displaced, shoots out, and then obviously comes back in, and you're starting to go underneath the water, and you realize, oh shoot, I got a hook. You release the grappling mechanism from Glass on this. He releases. You go to try to pilot, nothing there. However, you are naturally just floating up to the surface. You breach the surface, and you kind of sit there now, and you're buoyant. because of glass, so this is interesting. You've never been in water before.
Yeah.
So you're at the surface of this, and this asteroid just sinks into the deep beneath you.
Okay. Gavin would be asking Glass, report. Do you have any power to the drive at all?
Gavin drives her down. Doing a system scan. Hull appears to be intact. No leaks. Pressurized. Drives her down.
Alright, let me go take a look. So Gavin would unbuckle and go find the drives and see if he can repair them, or if they're, just, I guess, first he'd just kind of get a gauge of how heavily damaged they are.
Yeah, so you get out of your seat, you start going through, the hull to kind of check on these things. You go to where the drive systems are located. It's toast. Like, something has fried these. You are a very skilled mechanic. This is beyond repair.
Okay. So we're just sitting ducks.
Currently sitting ducks. And as you're looking around, like, you're hearing and feeling these splashes because these other asteroids that came in behind you are still coming in. Hopefully one's not going to crash on top of you, but they are falling through, hitting the water, and you're getting these huge waves. So you're kind of getting rocked as you're trying to walk through here. And because glass is translucent, you're able to see out. You can see these waves sloshing up over the sides of glass and these asteroids hitting, and you're kind of looking up. I don't know if you are a religious character praying or whatever it is, but you're hoping nothing's going to hit you. And you kind of breathe through it, and nothing does, and it starts to quiet.
Okay. Just from what Gavin would know about a ship mind, how likely is it that I could replace these drives, maybe with something that I can find on the Luminaut or something? Is it possible to replace and glass actually, move again at some point, or without the drive is glass toast?
Yeah, following your train of thought, absolutely. So The Luminaut is a large vessel, and you're pretty confident that there are things on there, parts, if not just a direct replacement for what he has, because it would have like a hangar where even a ship mine could park itself. So they would have repair bays. So you're pretty confident that there's either something to replace that, it's called Nexus Drive. So either replace it, or you could probably, with your skills, find the stuff to craft that.
Okay.
So hopefully you're not completely stuck.
Well, with that, I guess Gavin would ask Glass. He would tell Glass, doesn't look good here. Drive is completely shot. I think I'm going to need to completely replace it. Have you been able to see if Cinder is out there at all?
Glass says, yeah, I see on the opposite side of the Luminaut, I do see Torrent and Cinder. They're actually moving.
Can you raise them?
Trying. Cinder, Torrent. Cinder, come back. There's something blocking us.
How far away? So you said they're on the other side of the Luminaut.
Mm-hmm.
How far away are we from the Luminaut? Is it swimmable distance?
Yeah, so you look in that direction. Now, have you been in a world with water before?
Yeah, I would think that at the very least, Gavin would know how to swim.
I think so. Being like a survivalist and going into these types of things, they'd probably train you for a lot of things. So
yeah.
I'd say you know how to swim at least. So it's definitely swimmable. It's not close, but you feel like it is a distance. So I would say maybe 300 meters from there.
Okay.
Just to give you more information on what Glass was telling you regarding Torrent and Cinder, they were on the opposite side of that, moving towards the Luminaut.
Okay. Well, Glass, I don't think you're going to be moving at all. I think I'm going to have to make my way over to the Luminaut and see if I can connect with Cinder and Torrent.
Yes, I believe that's the unfortunate reality. Be safe. I'll be in your mind.
Yes, see if there's anything that you can do to repair any of these, at least some of the damages. I'll do what I can to find a drive, and hopefully we can still complete this mission.
I hope so as well. I will do some secondary scans of my systems, and maybe if I'm able, try to research what this world is.
Perfect. Let me know if you come up with anything. And then Gavin would get his gear together. I'm sure he has kind of a basic kit of some kind that he would take with him with, whatever he would need on a world. Potentially food, definitely tools, kind of the various things that he would need. Is there anything that Gavin would know specifically about, this research type of vessel that the Luminaut is? I don't know, anything that might, cause me to take something specific?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you have, your typical tools where you're pretty crafty. So I don't think that there'd be anything that would trigger your mind of like, oh, this is specifically going to help me because of this type of vessel. It's going to have probably more resources than you're going to have just because of the type of vessel that it is. Now, you don't know the state of the interior or the crew or what's happened. It was said to be 17 hours essentially ago that they went missing.
Okay. Well, as Gavin is getting his stuff together, he would say to Glass, probably while he's in, actually still inside Glass, these would be audible things he'd be saying just because he, I think, would feel more comfortable speaking audibly just with his history. He would say, if you can, keep regularly trying to raise Cinder and Torrent and see if there's anyone aboard the Luminaut that you can raise as well.
You got it, Gavin.
We floating top up?
Top up.
Is there any sort of a hatch on the top?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got you got your main hatch and you have a secondary one where you could exit the top.
Okay. Yeah. Gavin would go ahead and exit out the top, and looking across the way, actually now, I guess Glass is, translucent, so I could see this from before, but now at least I have a little bit of height. How badly damaged does the Luminaut look?
It does not look flyable in its current state. So the way it's situated, you can see now, looking out, that you're kind of directing your attention that way. The water that you're in is deeper than what the Luminaut is. You can actually see, as it gets closer, that it is kind of like on a bit of a raised portion of Earth, essentially. So it's not above the surface, like the sand would not be above the surface, but it's enough where this is kind of like lodged on it. It is essentially, you're towards the front of it. It's the highest point of its orientation. So the back of the Luminaut is kind of like down into the water pretty significantly. So it's like kind of halfway submerged. The top of this has been just peppered by asteroids. So you would need like a full mechanic crew probably working on this with a whole lot of replacement parts for a while to get the exterior of this flyable. If you can even fly out of here, which I'm not sure if it's even possible at this point.
Okay. I think Gavin would get to some, wherever he can actually reach the water, check the temperature of the water, and check, I wouldn't want to, put it in my mouth, but using some sort, I don't know if there's a way to use a tool or something that I would have to check if it's salt, fresh water, how potable it is.
Okay. I think with what you're capable of, I would say you have a tool that can check kind of the general chemical consistency of materials. So you kind of reach into your bag, you pull out a cylinder and kind of get down there and check this out. So I would assume first you kind of just put your hand in there, feeling it. Yeah, so it's cool. It's not like ice cold, definitely not warm water, but it would kind of reminiscent of like what you would expect, kind of like our type of oceans in the real world would kind of feel like.
Okay.
You kind of analyze your sample, you run it through. Seems very typical of what you'd expect from just like a saltwater type environment. They're definitely like, microscopic type organics in there, your picking up traces of plant materials, all sorts of flora, fauna. Just it's in the water, and it's salt water.
Okay.
Yep.
Gavin would summarize anything he learned from that, tell it to Glass, and then he would say, if there's anything that you can pick up out of the composition of the various organics in this water, let me know. Perhaps you can triangulate where we are.
That's a great idea. I will continue to check and relay. I do see small organics in the water, but nothing to be concerned about.
Right, well, I guess I can't avoid it any longer. I'm going for a swim. Gavin would... Yeah. I assume he's wearing some sort of
like a flight suit.
Yeah, essentially. He would find a way to take as much as he can, put it inside of a pack of some kind, and kind of try to, hold it up above the water as he's swimming. And, yeah, start making his way over there.
Okay, so you're taking off like your flight suit, kind of getting down to your skivvies. Is that what you're doing?
No, I think he'd keep the flight suit on.
Okay.
Just, any equipment and gear that he has. Okay. He doesn't want it, that he has like stowed on him, in belts or whatever. He doesn't want that to get wet, so he's going to try to put it in a kit of some kind and kind of hold it above the water.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can go ahead and do that. Just kind of getting in slow, you jumping in, what are you doing?
I mean, I would assume at this point he'd kind of have to slide down Glass into the water. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, he wouldn't like dive in or anything. He'd kind of just, slowly, not like, terrified slow, but, just kind of carefully
just gradually
slow.
Getting, yeah. So you kind of slide down the exterior hull of Glass into the water and get submerged. And are you just starting to swim? Are you looking down at all?
Probably not looking down. I would assume that because Glass is translucent, it would have been pretty obvious that whatever below, I assume it's just depths below us.
Yeah, currently you can't see the bottom directly underneath you, but as I mentioned, as you're getting towards the Luminaut, you can actually see, the surface underneath the water starting to kind of raise up. This is a bit of a raised portion, so it's maybe only about 200 meters of your swim where you can start seeing that coming up towards kind of this sandbar, essentially, where the Luminaut has crash landed.
Okay. Actually, rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Before actually sliding into the water, Gavin would look down. Seeing that he can't see the bottom, he would say, Glass, did you hear those words that were spoken to me?
There was a moment where I felt an interruption in our connection. So are you saying something else spoke to you?
Something. Yes, something spoke to me. It said release. Follow the deep. He says that as he's kind of looking down into the depths of the water.
I'll compile this into my research of this planet and see if it turns up anything.
Alright, keep everything locked up. Don't let anyone in.
And you say that like you can hear the top hatch kind of close and latch behind you.
Alright, with that, Gavin would slide into the water and start swimming.
Okay. Yeah, so you slide into the water, no issue there. Kind of swim up towards the Luminaut. As you're getting closer, you can see, there is kind of sand and material, just kind of like normal plants. You see some small fish, just, kind of typical things that you would have learned about, really, if you're studying things as far as like a marine type life. So nothing really of note stands out there. As you're getting closer there, you're coming towards, the front of the ship there. What's your plan once you're getting to the Luminaut?
As I'm getting closer, first thing would be to ask Glass if Cinder and Torrent have made it to the ship on the other side, and if there's been any connection.
Okay. Yeah, Glass would respond. Appears they have made it to the Luminaut. With the radar signal, I can't tell where they went, but their signal has stopped there. No comms.
Okay. How big is this ship? Like, would I be able to swim around it to where they are, or walk around it to where they are, or are we? I mean, is this so big that I would need to probably go through it?
It would probably be easier to find a way into it. I was going to tell you, as you're actually swimming up, you can see that like there are multiple hatches on this. There's one kind of towards the front that you can see that's been like kind of blown out. So as you're coming up, it's pretty easy to see like, oh, I could make entry here. From your knowledge of these ships, typically that hangar is going to be in the back section of the ship, which is now pretty much mostly submerged. So you'd have to go for a dive if you're going to go that direction. This entry point looks like it'd be pretty easy to go in.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Gavin would make his way over there. Is it dark inside?
You actually can see that there is still some power that's like trying to stay on within the ship. So lights are on. A couple seconds later, kind of flickers a bit, goes out, comes back on. So it's got some degree of power still within.
Okay. Gavin would probably go ahead and, we're still in a fantasy setting, so I'm assuming a light, would be some sort of a magical item that emits light. So he would probably go ahead and activate that in order to just have his own light source just in case. What does it look like? Like, what is the portion of the ship that this opening goes into?
So from what you can see, if you're just like outside looking in, it's really just kind of like a hallway. You would recognize that if you were to go in and head up kind of towards the right, there'd be the command deck, bridge type sections, and then going to the left would lead you through captain's quarters, engineering bays, and then eventually towards the back of the ship would be the hangar. So it's a pretty good sized ship. I mean, it could probably house 4 or 5 ship mines in the back. That's the hangar size. You have all these other sections, so it's probably itself 200 to 300 meters long. So it's pretty good size.
Okay. So if I turned left, that would probably be the direction to go to make my way towards Cinder and Torrent, or where we think they are.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Is the bridge and those sorts of things where you said I would turn right, is that closer?
It would be closer. So you're kind of towards the front of the ship.
Yeah.
So if you were to make a right, you would probably be pretty quickly into the bridge.
Okay. I'd go that way. Gavin would turn right, and he'd be moving cautiously and probably trying to stay fairly quiet at this point. Not like yelling out for anybody, anything like that. Just trying to kind of keep an eye out. If there's any doors that, passing, be looking inside, just trying to look for signs of life.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so as you head in, you're at first hearing the noise of the water. So there are some waves here, so it's kind of like sloshing and splashing up behind you, so you hear that. But as you're moving into the hall, like the sound of that kind of fades behind you. You do hear kind of like arcane electrical type noises from mechanics, just magical essence of the ship and how it's functioning, kind of like as you're walking through. You get to this point where, okay, well, bridge this way, so you start heading towards the bridge. You're able to find without an issue. These are pretty well labeled, and you're pretty close to begin with. So you come into the bridge, open up, you can see a good-sized room where you'd probably have 3 to 4 officers in command here, potentially other help that would be in the space. You can see the deck. Big portion of that section in front of the deck is pretty heavily damaged and blown out. Okay, so as you're looking into the deck here, you can see it's suffered some pretty heavy damage. You can actually feel kind of the wind and just the smell of that saltwater air coming through as you come up into the bridge. Definitely no evidence of any people in here.
There's no, visible signs of people being injured, like blood or anything like that.
Looking around, you can definitely see some blood splatters on portions of the ship that would be controls. So if they suffered an impact, you could definitely imagine people potentially breaking bones and suffering lacerations that would cause kind of what you're seeing. There's no body parts or gore in here. It's just the this you got injured in this room.
Okay. Even knowing that Glass can just, see and hear what Gavin can see and hear, he would still be kind of narrating to Glass what he's seeing. Mm-hmm. Just a comfort thing of kind of constantly communicating. So he'd be, telling Glass, made my way into the bridge. There does appear to be signs of blood and injury of some sort from crew. Heavy damage. Don't see anyone who's here. I'll keep looking. Just kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Gavin would be looking to see, because he doesn't see any person, he'd immediately kind of go to the controls and see if he can tell, is this ship ever going to be flyable? I mean, could it even be repaired?
Based on you looking at the controls, seeing the physical damage on the exterior, like I said, it would be a crew of mechanics coming in with all of the replacement parts and working on it for like a week. Like, this thing is messed up.
Okay.
So, it's one of those things where because of it having a ship mind and a large one, there's value in that. So the Royal Gilead Navy would spend the resources to repair it and not just decommission it, because there is incredible value there.
Okay. So kind of Gavin's goals at this point would probably be, number one, to find Cinder and make sure she's okay, and then see if there's any survivors, see if they can, he can find and perhaps talk to the Luminaut's ship mind, and then probably try to get anybody that's alive and figure out how to leave this world.
Okay.
So that would be kind of his, current set of goals. But yeah, he'd probably go and, leave and then start making his way back down towards the hangar and the back of the ship to go see if he can find Cinder.
Okay, perfect. So you come out of the bridge where you had turned before to the right. You left would head you out back to where you came from. You're going to keep going straight more towards the interior of the ship. And you also get the sense, too, because of how the ship is oriented, like we mentioned, of it's sitting kind of tail down. You can sense that, like, there's a bit of a slant to this as you're walking, that you're kind of heading downhill. And even as you are walking, you can just hear kind of the groans of metal as you're walking from the tension that this vessel is under of being in the water. You even feel just a little bit of movement. You've been here a couple minutes, hasn't happened a lot, but a couple times you can feel there's a shift to this.
A shift from me, like, from my weight moving through the ship, or just it's shifting around me?
Just a shifting around.
Okay.
This is big enough where your weight's not going to impact it. It's starting to slowly, seems like, tipping more towards the back.
Okay, got it. As I'm making my way through, Gavin would ask Glass, do you know typical crew size of a ship like the Luminaut?
Typically, it'd be in the range of 15 to 20. I don't have the personnel records of the Luminaut specifically. That would be my best guess.
It's awfully quiet down here for... This is all awfully quiet down here for a crew of 15 to 20.
As you continue down this hallway, one of the first areas you're coming up to, you can see the labels for the captain's quarters, and you hear kind of like a bump and a ping noise.
Okay. Yeah, that would definitely stop Gavin. I would, make my way over to those quarters and try to see if I can go in.
Okay, so you go in and you are startled, and you see a person in there who is also kind of shocked at seeing you. You see, pretty quickly though, you can tell that they're wearing kind of like official type uniform that you would expect for this type of vessel. You see like a silver dragonkin.
Okay. Gavin would raise a hand and say, "Oh, hello."
Yes, hello. Are you here to rescue us?
Yes, I'm Gavin Ashwind of the Azimuth Vanguard, here for search and rescue.
Oh, that's excellent. So I assume you were pulled through. I didn't remember seeing you on our scans. That's quick. It's been, 15 minutes?
15 minutes since what?
Since we were pulled through and crashed.
I assume with how much swimming I had to do to get here, it's probably been an hour or more since I've just been here.
I mean, that was the type of swim that you could have made in, 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not, super long. I mean, you're a survivalist, physical. I mean, 300 meters, you can definitely swim that pretty casually, I think, in that time.
See, 300 meters tells me nothing, so... Alright.
Yeah. So, he's telling you it's been that long.
Okay. But, on the other side, we had a whole fight. We were out there for quite a while. Definitely more than 15 minutes, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Gavin would say, I'm not sure how long you've been here, but we responded to a distress call that was, by this point, almost a day ago, and I've been here for probably 15 minutes or more.
Maybe my time's a bit off, just a bit stressful. Have to excuse me. And he kind of leans over and he is hitting on a panel in the captain's quarters area, and then kind of looks up to you and starts to walk over to you.
Okay. Excuse me. What is your name?
Oh, it's Dern Salida.
Dern? Are you the captain?
I'm the drive bay engineer. I was in a separate area, and the captain and everyone was headed towards the hangar bay, and I heard some screams and I hid.
You hid here in the captain's quarters?
Yes, it was the closest place for me. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, I'm glad I've found you. Perhaps you can show me where everyone else went.
Are you equipped? I don't know what's down there.
Have you seen something dangerous?
No, I just heard her screams, and I haven't seen anyone in a few minutes.
Well, we need to get down there and check on them then.
Sure, this way.
And he kind of sheepishly walks out and starts heading. He makes a right and starts heading down towards the hangar area. One of the first places you do come to pretty quickly is actually kind of the drive bay. So if one of your goals is to potentially repair glass, this is probably a pretty good place to look for that.
Okay. Yeah, I think Gavin would put out a hand on Dern's shoulder and say, "Hold on a moment. My ship has been damaged, and I'd like to see if there's anything in here in the drive bay that we could use to repair my ship."
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is where I work every day. Is this something I can help you with?
Yes, hopefully. And he would walk in there.
So what are you looking for?
Well, the drive on my ship mind has been completely destroyed. I'm going to need to replace it in some way. Do you have any replacement drives of that size?
He kind of taps his foot and looks around. Well, the ship's been pretty heavily damaged. Normally they'd be over in this area here. I can check for you and see is there a particular model you're looking for or type?
As long as it's the right size, I don't think the model or type matters a lot.
Okay, he walks up and opens up some cabinets and starts kind of throwing stuff back behind him, kind of going through pretty quickly. He's kind of getting frustrated, and I don't think I'm seeing anything here. He just kind of steps and walks back kind of quickly towards you.
Okay. Would I get any sort of a feeling, that he's acting suspiciously in any way?
You can make an influence check.
Okay. I'm naturally suspicious. I'm not sure Gavin would be in this moment. Is there anything that he was like, tossing aside that would look like something an engineer would not be tossing aside?
Yeah, he's definitely going through this in a haphazard fashion, and you can pretty clearly see there's still some things in there, and he didn't look like he fully went through this. So I think you're smart enough to know that he's not being super helpful.
Okay, I think that would trigger Gavin's suspicion, so yeah.
Okay.
Alright, influence is an average skill, so that is a 2.
Okay, he got a 1, so that is success. So, yeah, you're kind of, with his actions, I know you're kind of like, hey, why are you in the captain's quarters as well? And then with how he's acting here, like, he's just, you don't know if he's shaken up from what's transpired. Obviously, he's saying they crashed very recently. You're not sure if that's true or not, but he's acting a little off.
Okay. Gavin would say, well, I'm actually fairly adept at engineering myself. I think I'd like to take a look.
Yeah, sure. Help yourself.
So he would walk over there and look for himself to see if there's a drive in there he can use.
I won't even make you roll. It's sitting right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. He would make it seem like he's having to kind of look a little bit. Is this something that I could pick up and carry with me, or is it large?
It's something you can pick up. So it's going to be, probably 3 feet long, kind of cylindrical type piece of equipment. Something that's, it's got some weight because of what it is, but nothing super cumbersome.
Okay, so it's something I could definitely pick up, but not carry around with me on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, you potentially could. It's not like you're going to be dragging it across the ground. Like you could carry it underneath your arm. It's, probably, 50 pounds, nothing too crazy.
Okay. Gavin would probably leave it there then. And, he'd step out and say, yes, it appears you're right. There's nothing in there that I can use.
Oh, I'm real sorry about that. Hopefully we can do something about that. Just kind of stands there awkwardly.
Gavin would go over to, I'm assuming since you said this is the drive bay, like this is actually where this ship's drives are.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say, Dern, could you help me to just take a look to see if these drives are in any way functional?
Yeah, sure. He kind of walks around and he's kind of inspecting the mechanics of things. Then he walks around the corner and kind of drops to his knees and looks over kind of his shoulder back at you. They took it.
They took what?
The ship mine core.
Would this be where a ship mine core, where I would expect a ship mine core to be on a ship like this?
Yes.
Okay. Gavin would come over there to see if that's true, if it's missing.
Yeah, you can see it's been ripped out.
Who took the ship mine core?
I'm not sure. Can we get out of here?
Yes, I think we need to see what's happening further on in the ship. At this point, Gavin would... I don't know that much about fantasy ship drive engineering, but he would make up some sort of a term for a part or something like that is not real, but sounds technical.
Okay.
And he would kind of point at one of these broken pieces of this drive and say, he'd reference that and call it that and say, do you think that this is repairable at all?
So he will basically correct you, because I'm not going to know the terms either. So he actually corrects you and says, no, that's this, and he's saying the correct thing. So
Okay.
Oh, this is broken, and hopefully I can fix this, is kind of like what he's going to tell you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he corrects you.
Yeah. So he is at least an engineer of some sort.
Potentially. Saying he is sounds like he has the knowledge of that. Yeah.
So he's not faking who he is. He just doesn't want to help me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right. So Gavin would lead him back out into the hall and continue further on into the ship.
Okay. So As you start walking that way, ship's tilting a little bit more. You hear that more of that groan from the metal, and down the hall you see water. So as you continue, you're starting to step into a very thin layer of water in this hall because you're now reaching the point where it's at the surface of the water.
Okay.
So not too much longer into you walking through this water, you can hear the echo of screams down the hallway.
Oh boy. So it's active screams that I'm hearing.
Active screams that you're hearing.
Okay. Gavin doesn't have any weapons, so he has nothing to ready in that sense. But he would kind of hold a hand out to Dern and say, "Stay close behind me," and start moving quickly, not like full sprint or anything. Trying to still, since we are moving through water, trying to still stay relatively quiet, as quiet as you can by moving quickly through water.
Okay. Yeah, so you're moving pretty quickly. You continue to hear these shouts and screams kind of echoing through. You're not sure where they're coming from. You turn down a hall. I mean, now the water's starting to get up to your ankles and then your shins, and you're getting closer, and it's almost now up to your knees, where you're having to make some force and exertion to get through the water. You're hearing more groans kind of from the ship. And you come up to an area where there's actually actual glass that would lead into the hangar bay. And you see something you wouldn't expect in this scenario. There are multiple different types of ships that are floating in the water, and you see the remnants of the last couple of people being shoved into these ships, and you see Cinder being shoved into a ship, and you see a powered down Torrent as well, hooked up with some sort of cables. As he's being dipped and pulled into the water, the door closes behind Cinder, and these vessels sink down into the water out of your view.
Okay, so do they look like underwater vessels, or do they look like, flying spaceships, for lack of a better term, that are being used for underwater?
So, from your experience, maybe both. It definitely looks like you're catching it really quickly. You can tell that it is meant for water. Who knows if it can fly? But there's definitely some resemblance to the typical ship mines that you see, but very much more like a aquatic type piece of equipment, whatever this ship is, or these multiple ships.
Okay, and they, I'm assuming, do not look kind of the same as those pirates I fought.
Correct. These are not the pirate ships. You're catching them briefly as you got these last couple submerging, they're leaving, and you're seeing Torrent pulled away as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, Gavin would run, kind of be trying to get in there, but then would probably stop as these ships leave because he's not going to be able to catch up to them swimming, I assume.
So you make the corner, you're starting to head kind of deeper down in the water of this hangar where a good chunk of it was submerged, and you hear some splashing from somewhere.
Okay. Can I tell where?
Yeah, let's just do kind of a awareness, because you're not actively looking for something. It's just something's happening, you're trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Okay. That's a 1.
Okay, so you can definitely tell which direction it's coming from. So as you're heading towards the hangar, this would be kind of the other direction, the opposite side of the ship, and you kind of turn. You can see something in the water moving towards you.
Oh boy. Immediately Gavin would try to get away from it, move back towards Dern.
Okay.
Back to more of the knee high. So yeah,
okay.
Running away essentially.
Yeah, so Dern has the same reaction seeing you run towards him. He starts booking it back to where you guys came from, and something is going to try to grab you.
Okay.
So I guess say they're like an athletics.
All right.
Let's check that.
Well, I do have a stunt. Why fight when you can run?
Okay.
I get a +2 to athletics checks when I'm running away from an enemy.
Okay.
All right. So that would be a 5.
Okay. So this rolled a 4.
Okay.
Let me see if I can set some aspects here. Let's go with partially submerged is 1.
Okay.
And aquatic creature.
Okay.
So it is going to use aquatic creature, and so that'll make that a 6.
All right. I don't think I really have anything that I can use. None of those aspects really stand out to me as something that I could use. So.
Okay. So you try to react quickly. You know, you're good at running. However, you're also in water, and this thing, whatever this is, lives in water.
Yep.
You see kind of this reddish, kind of like long type tendril type thing kind of hit the surface of the water. It's moving almost snake-like, and it reaches out, thrusts towards you, and like grips on your leg, and you feel something dig in to your calf and grab you.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
So do I take physical stress?
Take 1 physical stress from that.
I mean, I am taking more than 1 physical stress right now.
Not mental stress?
I mean, probably both. I'm like sweating here. Gavin is just going to probably continue trying to get away. So he's going to reach down and try to pull this thing, grab it, pull it out of his leg, and keep running.
Okay. Yeah, so go ahead and roll, I guess, a athletics for that as well.
Okay.
Basically kind of a contested roll here.
So that would be a 5, and am I applying the +2 or essentially still trying to get away?
Yeah, I think you're still trying to actively escape so that you can apply that.
So that would be a 7.
Okay. So it rolled a 5, but it is going to invoke the aquatic creature as well, again.
Okay.
So that makes that a 7.
Is there anything around me, like anything that I could grab onto, any floating pieces of the ship, anything at all around me?
So there's like a guardrail type on like the walkway that you're on. So I mean, you're real close to that. If you maybe got a couple more inches, you might be able to grab onto that to help kind of pull you up. Looking back behind you quickly, you can see that there is like a bay door, and there is partial power to the ship. So this might potentially still work if you're able to get through that to give yourself some protection. Dern, by the way, is not helping you, so he is continuing to run.
Okay. All right. So let me see if this makes sense.
Okay.
So I have the mechanical genius aspect. Some kind of a tool I have surely is powered. I'd like to use a fate point and invoke this to use my mechanical genius aspect to try to use one of these tools to kind of, shove this thing away from me and almost like trigger it in the water and have it shock this thing to give me that extra boost to get away.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I think you're probably realizing you're going to get shocked as well.
Yep.
But hopefully that surprise might get this thing to release. So, yeah, that is successful. So you stick this down in the water, zap it kind of shrieks, and then it draws back. And now you can kind of see it because it's lifted the end of what was on your leg before. You can see kind of the void within its mouth or whatever this is, and these like 4 type of fangs that you now realize were dug into your calf, and it kind of shrieks and recoils.
Okay. I'm going to run for that door. You said Dern already went through it? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna just run for that door and try to get it closed before this thing can get at me.
Okay, got it. So he has ran up ahead of you. He ducked through another door and he closed it. Not the one that you're trying to go through. So he went through second one. So that one's closed. But the one you're trying to go through is still open. So go ahead. I'm going to do just like a athletics check to see if you can get there, because this thing's pretty fast trying to stop you. So it's kind of this one last roll.
I really don't like Dern already. Oh man, I never roll good. Let's see. So that would be a 3.
Okay, it also got a 3, but it did not overcome you trying to get there. So I will say that you are successful in reaching this door first. I assume you're turning to hit the controls to close it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, you turn to try to hit the controls, and as you're trying to do that, one of those kind of like power cuts on the ship happens. No response.
Can I just physically get it closed, or are these doors like too large and heavy?
Too large, too heavy for you to physically do it, because it's like kind of back on the track of where it slides in place and close off these sections.
Okay. Power's completely out.
Currently.
Alright. I think that Gavin would carry a power source of some kind. How quickly could I work this thing into the mechanics of this door and get it powered up and closed?
I mean, you also did have that tool where you just zap the water, so you've got something that can charge up power pretty quick.
Yep.
I think you probably could do it pretty fast. Now, quicker than this thing could potentially get to you again to try to get to you. Don't know about that. So what do you want to keep running, or do you want to try to fix the door?
I think Gavin would try to get the door closed. So he would try to, as quickly as possible, plug a power source into this thing. He's got all the tools. He's got his multi-tool that can pretty much be any tool. And he'd try to get it closed and try to close it on this thing.
Okay. All right, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and roll an attack to see if this thing is able to get you.
What would I defend with?
Whatever you want, probably like a Zeke, athletics. How are you defending against it?
I mean, honestly, he'd be trying to use mechanics to go fast enough to, have the door defend against it. So.
Okay, yeah, go for it. I'll let you do that. I'll let you do it. Yep. Whoa.
So that's an 8.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in like MacGyver mode. Instinct survival kicks in. You are focused. You pop that panel so quick, and you power it up. As this thing is lunging at you, its face is coming at you with these fangs, whatever you want to call them. Door slides, cuts it in half, and it slides in and lands on the floor. Twitches for a second, kind of like involuntarily movements, and then it stops.
Okay. Gavin would kind of sit back a little bit, just breathe deeply for a moment, and then he'd look down at it and he'd say, "Glass, do you recognize this thing at all?"
Never seen it before. I've got a signature on Torrent. We're taking him into the deep. Okay, so we are 2 episodes in. How are you feeling as a player?
I love it and hate it a little bit. The whole horror vibe, honestly, I don't do super well with horror, so I'm actually physically feeling the stress here. But it's fun. You're doing a great job. The entire scenario really reminds me of kind of like a Metroid vibe.
Okay.
I've been playing some of those games recently, and it just got this haunted horror, exploring these ruins vibe. But
yeah, that's kind of what's happening. And now, next episode, you get to go down.
Do I have to?
You don't have to do anything,
I personally don't want to, but Gavin would.
Absolutely. We got to have more episodes, so that's
pretty
much where you got to go.
All right.
Well, thanks for listening.